Today I thought I'd give you a little tour of our tiny little fruit farm. This here is our persimmon tree. It's only about 3 years old, but it's growing fruits like crazy, as you can see here. These are almost ripe and ready for picking. Once they turn a little more orange or yellow orange, we're going to be picking them off and letting them just sit in the kitchen to ripen up. Remember, you eat these when they're really soft. They feel like they're almost rotten, but they taste really good. They're sweet. That's about it. They're just kind of sweet. But never eat it when it's hard. It tastes terrible. But this is a persimmon tree. It produces way more fruit than it can handle, so sometime around June you want to go through and pick off probably half to 2/3 of the fruit, so that the last fruits on here can grow about the size of a tennis ball. If you let them all grow, they'll be real small and they'll start dropping like crazy. So you really do want to start picking some of those off around May or June. Like some other trees, the persimmon will make shoots appear in the ground like this. And these can be split off from the main root to grow new persimmon trees. And actually, it'll also send shoots off quite a distance away. This is probably 6 to 8 feet from the tree, and I've got a young shoot here. I've also got a young shoot over there, which is another 6 to 8 feet away. So this thing will send shoots out where the roots are going. And what you can do is just chop the root right here, unplant this, and put it into a new box to grow another tree from that shoot. This being a dwarf persimmon tree, it's only expected to get about 15 feet tall. A normal persimmon tree can get 40 to 60 feet tall. So definitely you want to consider a dwarf for a tree like a persimmon, just because of the size of the tree otherwise. They may be a bit hard to see because they're kind of blend in with the leaves a little bit, but you can see about how many persimmons I have density-wise in this tree. It's actually kind of high. I may pull more of them off next time, but it seems to be doing pretty well. They're all tennis ball sized, nice even color, and they look pretty healthy. So this is probably about the density of fruit that this tree can sustain. Right here we have a second persimmon tree. I'm a little scared of this one because it's not a dwarf, which means it could potentially grow to 60 feet tall. However, even at this small size, it still thought it could produce a fruit, and it's holding on to it, and it actually looks pretty good. And this is my peach tree. This is probably 4 or 5 years old now. It is probably up to a good 12 feet tall, but it's also a dwarf, so it's not expected to grow too much more than that. There's no peaches on it now because right now it's mid-September, and the peaches pretty much are done by July, June. So there's nothing on here right now. The key to the peach tree is you've got to thin it out. These trees will produce hundreds of peaches about the size of a golf ball or smaller. So what you absolutely have to do is pull off almost 3/4 of those peaches sometime around April or May, so that the remaining peaches can grow to your nice big size. Now this year I was kind of lazy. I didn't get around to it until late May, and that was too late. Most of the peaches ended up about this big, like a small apple size, and they didn't really ripen well. They were a little bit astringent, but they were still pretty good. But key is to thin those peaches out a lot, because they will just not grow otherwise. This is one of our newcomers to the farm here, just a little raspberry bush. It's trying to produce raspberries already, even though we just planted it about a month ago. It's just pretty amazing how prolific that thing's been for being so young. It's grown quite a bit since we got it. So this thing I'm expecting will get pretty big by next year. The raspberries actually taste pretty good. I was surprised. This is my Meyer Lemon tree. It actually produced 5 or 6 lemons last year, but then winter hit and it froze, killed all the branches, but then it came back to life again. So the leaves just smell amazing when you crack one. Oh man, that's incredible. It smells so good. But you really have to winterize these up here in zone 7 by putting a bag over them and trying to keep them a little bit warm. The key with the lemons I found is when they're big enough, when they're actually small enough to fit through the opening of a water bottle, I slip a water bottle over top of it and let the lemon grow inside the plastic water bottle. That way the animals don't eat it. And then of course you pick it and you have to cut it out of that water bottle in order to get the lemon out. That seemed to work pretty well to keep the animals away. Talking about my lemon bush reminded me, I used to have a Kefir lime bush. And I'll tell you what, man, you crack a leaf on that thing, it is intoxicating. It smells so good. It smells just like, green Skittles, I think, when you eat green Skittles. It was just amazing. So I missed that lime tree. It died when it got like -5 one year, and just the little bag over it wasn't enough to keep it warm. But anyway, man, lemon leaves and lime leaves, they just smell incredible. This is another very new addition to the farm here. This is one of 2 pear trees that we just bought. And so we'll probably be waiting a couple of years before this will produce a reasonable amount of pears, but looking forward to it. Here's another brand new addition. This is a pomegranate tree. There's absolutely no fruits growing on it yet. It's just a little spindly thing, but we're expecting to get some fruit from that in maybe 2 or 3 years. It's supposed to be hardy in this zone 7, so we'll see how it does. I love pomegranates, and they're pretty impervious to bugs and animals, hopefully, so we'll see if we can keep a lot of those. Finally is my sad little apple tree. This little tiny guy was grown from an actual apple seed. I cut an apple open one day and the seed inside was actually sprouting, so I decided to plant it. And this is what I've got. Unfortunately, it was in a tiny pot for like 2 or 3 years, and that, I think, stunted its growth. It's almost like a bonsai apple tree right now. But hopefully it'll snap out of that soon and will actually start growing like crazy. We'll see. I have to admit that I didn't take very good care of my hops bush this year. It has grown some hops, but I didn't even pick them in time. There's a couple of nice looking ones here, hop cones. But this one is supposed to go up a string to the roof, and I've just got it on a little like 5-foot A-frame thing right now. I didn't really water it as much as it needed to be watered, and I haven't made my own beer yet, so I haven't needed to harvest hops, but it's pretty easy to grow these things, surprisingly. And when you pick them, boy, they smell good. They smell like hops. This is a cascade hop from that hop bush behind me there, hop vine. And you can just peel this thing open here and see all that yellow pollen-like resin in there. That is the hop flavor right there. It's good and hoppy, nice and bitter. This is the kind of thing you could just dry hop a beer with. You just drop it right in the glass of beer, and it'll flavor it up like you wouldn't believe. Now, when you plan to put fruit trees in your yard, make sure you get them spaced out enough. Probably could use a little more space between these guys here, but you want to shoot for maybe 10 to 12 feet when you're using dwarf plants. And I left a little space on the side here for the raspberry and 2 blueberry bushes, and we'll probably end up expanding that soon. I'm going to make a cage. There's a second blueberry bush behind that one. I'm going to make a cage that encompasses these guys here, and maybe even put some more bushes in there for fruit. You also want to make sure you keep your trees away from your water line. I've got the water drain here going out to there, and also the water line comes in here. So I don't want to plant trees right above that because the roots can damage the water system. So you got to be a little bit smart about where you put your trees. And also this spot has a good amount of sun all day long. So when you lay the trees out, you want to leave a good amount of space between them. I've got about 10 feet of space between each one of these trees, and then started another row over there, which is another about 10 feet away, maybe 12 feet there. And take a look at the size you expect that tree to get to in 10 years, because they could actually be quite large. I did not leave enough space around the persimmon tree here in the middle, and that one is supposed to be getting quite large in about 20 years time. So we'll see. By then we may actually move the other trees to a different property. We'll see.